Hi, this is Ilana Gutman, and I want to talk to you about plugins. Plugins are one of the great features about WordPress that a lot of its advocates are really enthusiastic about. And what a plugin is basically, it's not unique just to WordPress, but as I said, WordPress does have them. They're additional pieces of software that specialize in processing a particular type of content. And you'll see exactly what I mean by that in a minute. Another way to think about them is that they're an application that extends and adds to the basic functionality that already exists in WordPress. WordPress as a system is pretty basic. The creators didn't want to bloat it with a whole lot of code, and it has a pretty strong but basic set of features to begin with, and plugins are extensions that will customize it in a way to make it better suited to reach the type of goal that you have for your website or for your blog. There are plugins that will make the media library more robust. There are plugins that are really geared more towards bloggers. There are plugins that will do more to display video if you have a lot of videos. There are some that will enhance your portfolio by providing a lot of portfolio sections and customizations and various settings for displaying a portfolio, and so on and so forth. How can you find a plugin? You can access a plugin from the Google dashboard, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. You can do a Google search for certain type of plugin. You can search a website specializing in WordPress. One that I check sometimes is wpbeginner.com. And you can also search WordPress.org. There's a section in the top navigation of WordPress.org that will bring you right to plugin section. So I'm going to close out of my little presentation here for a minute, and I want to go into an installation of WordPress and show you a little bit more about the plugins hands-on. So I'm in the dashboard of my website. Let me just go back to the main screen. That's something you'll recognize. Okay, this is the home of my dashboard. And if I want to add a plugin, then I just go over here on the left to plugins, and I select add new. Just give it a second to load. Okay, so here are some popular tags of different types of plugins that are commonly searched for. Let's just give an example. A pretty common example would be a Google Analytics plugin for easily installing Google Analytics, which is a very popular tool for viewing what kind of users visit your site, how they visit your site, and so on and so forth. A lot of data about who is using your site. So I'm going to do a search, and here are the results. Now I'm going to give you a few pointers of the type of thing that you want to look for, because you are likely to get a lot of results for the type of plugin that you're looking for. Especially if you're looking for something general like Google Analytics that people running any kind of site are going to be interested in having. Okay, so as you can see, we have a lot of hits. In fact, 661. Okay, the thing you might be drawn to first is the star rating. You think, oh, that got 5 out of 5. That must be the best. No, not necessarily. You also want to see how many people reviewed this plugin, because if 2 people reviewed it 5 out of 5 stars, here's 5-star rating based on 5-star rating based on 6 ratings. Well, that's great, but another plugin that let's say 4.5 stars, but it's reviewed by many, many more people. Okay, this is based on 27 ratings. That's a lot better. But let's say this was based on 1,000 ratings. Well, I'm more likely to go with a plugin that's rated a 4.5 based on 1,000 ratings than one that's rated a 5 out of 5 based on only 2 ratings, because the sample size is much larger. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind when checking out a plugin is here. What version of WordPress is it compatible up to? We're currently in 4.0, so if it's only compatible up to, let's say, WordPress 2.5, well, that's no good, because that's a really, really old version of WordPress, and it might not be compatible with the version that you're running. Hopefully you're keeping your WordPress up to date. Okay, it's downloaded almost 200,000 times. That's encouraging. Of course, you don't know how many people downloaded it and then deleted it, right, or aren't using it. When was it last updated? It was last updated 5 months ago, so that's pretty good. It means that they're keeping it up to date. Okay, so that sounds pretty good. Another thing that you'd want to check out is you might want to read more about it on the WordPress.org plugin page. This is another place that you can go to. That is a repository of plugins directly from WordPress. One of the things I like to check out on WordPress.org is this support section over here. 0 of 2 support threads in the last 2 months have been resolved. So that's not so good. That means that you have some people that submitted a question for support for the plugin and they did not get an answer. That's something to think about. Let's say you run into a problem and you want to write the creators of the plugin to try to get a little help. Well, for this particular plugin, they haven't been responding. The community at large often chips in, especially if it's a very popular plugin, so you still might get an answer, but not from the people who created the plugin themselves. Let's see. Of the people who reviewed this, most gave it 5 stars. Only 2 gave it 1 star. So something like this I would consider to be very encouraging. I would be very likely to download this plugin, based on the information that I see, and based on the criteria that I just went over. But I would probably more thoroughly check out the other options before deciding to download this plugin. Okay, another thing that you definitely need to know about plugins is it's a third party. There are some plugins created by Automatic, which is Matt Mullenweg's company, the man who's behind WordPress and created it. So plugins from Automatic, from WordPress themselves, you can thoroughly trust. Plugins from very large companies like Facebook and or Google, you could also trust. But in general, they're third-party plugins, and you don't know ultimately what it's going to do to your website, and you don't know how it might conflict with other plugins that you have or other customizations that you have running. And so, just as you would with any other change that you're making to the website, you want to back up your work before you make this change. You want to back up your work, you want to back up your website before you install a new plugin. That way you're protecting yourself against any conflict that it might have with anything else that you're running. Okay, plugins are the major, I would say a significant major source of problems that WordPress websites face. When you start seeing bugs, a lot of times if you disable plugins, you'll find that will resolve the issue. So just please back up before playing around with plugins. Okay, I'm going to move to the next section. I think we went over this briefly. These are the places to search for plugins. How much does a plugin cost? Yep, it depends. Many plugins are free. A lot of them are freemium, what's called freemium, meaning that it's free for a basic version of the plugin, and it's paid either on an ongoing or a one-time basis for a more robust version of the plugin. And one that easily comes to mind is the Next Gen Gallery. This extends the built-in capability of the WordPress photo gallery, and there are a lot of features that you can get with the free Next Gen plugin, but there are also extensions of it that you can pay for, and it will provide you with a host of other features that you may or may not be interested in, depending on exactly what it is that you need to do. Sometimes developers of the plugin will ask for a donation. If you enjoyed my plugin, you get some benefit out of it, and maybe you'll consider making a $5 donation or something like that. But in general, you could probably expect to not budget too much money for plugins, because they're generally not a major expense. Okay, I'll go back to my presentation here. How do you install a plugin? So usually it's very simple. You can download it directly from the WordPress dashboard where we were before, or via FTP if you find it on a third-party website. So let me show you on the WordPress dashboard. Let's see, we were over here. So in our example, we had looked at this WP Google Analytics. I would press install now if I decide that yes, I do want to install this plugin. Let's just give it a minute. And you'll see a screen like this. And you see it's just 1.2. I've already installed it. And now I would just choose to activate it here by pressing this button. And that's it. It's just really easy. One click. That's why they call it a plugin. Okay, another place that you can download it from is if you have done a search from a third-party website like WP Beginner that I mentioned earlier. And then you can download it. Often it's a zipped file. And you just upload it via FTP to your plugins folder. Let me show you really quickly where that is. I use a program called Coda to access my websites via FTP. So let me go to, okay, this is my WordPress install. The plugins folder you'll find in WP content. And in this folder called plugins. And if I open up this folder, you'll see the list of plugins that I currently have installed. And here we have WP Google Analytics. That's the one that I just downloaded with a click of a button from the WordPress dashboard that made it populate here in this folder. But another way that I could do it if I didn't find this through the WordPress dashboard would be to, manually move it into this folder via FTP. At the end of the day, they do the same thing. They get it installed in the proper place in your WordPress files of your website. Okay. Plugin settings. Where can you make the changes in settings, update the settings to your plugins? Once you download it, where can you expect to activate it and do different things with it? Sometimes you'll see a special plugin menu in the dashboard. It'll appear somewhere on the left. Sometimes it will appear under tools in the dashboard, sometimes in settings. Sometimes if it's, let's say, for example, a plugin that, let's take an SEO plugin. You might see some settings that you can change on the post or the page itself, let's say to edit meta tags or to give it, let's say, an SEO-friendly title. That might be where you're editing the post or the page itself. So there are a lot of different places where you might be making adjustments to your website with the plugin. Here, this WP front and also easy testimonial settings, these are examples of plugins that have populated their own menu in the dashboard. Let's see if I can find an example here. This Web Ninja GA, this is a Web Ninja Google Analytics. This is an example of a plugin whose settings you would edit from the settings menu. And under tools, no, there's nothing under tools based on the plugins that I have currently installed. If I go to my pages, let's just pick a page at random here. Let's go to my portfolio. You'll see some settings, some things that populated this WordPress SEO by Yoast. Okay, so this is populated because I have downloaded the Yoast SEO plugin. Okay. Whoops, sorry, that was a mistake. So at this point in time, I would take any questions that you have about what I've covered, anything that I didn't cover. I'll be happy to. All right.